Good evening. And good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you back to everyone joining us virtually tonight for Snowline Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting. As we reconvene from closed session, there are no items to report out. For tonight's presentation of our nation's colors, we would like to take a moment to spotlight Vista Verde Elementary School. Vista Verde represents our only school within a city boundary, the city of Victorville, located as far northeast as our district lies. There are 657 Vista Verde Vipers serving grades preschool through 5. Currently led by Mrs. Maria Hughes, Vista Verde is the newest school to the Snowline District, opening in August of 2006, and by then Principal Dr. Ryan Holman. Vista is truly shining these days with their fully engaged faculty and staff, focusing on building relationships to all scholars, that they are achieving a 98% attendance rate this year. By offering choices of work completion, Vista's teachers are reporting steady academic progress and growth for all of their scholars. Thank you so much to our Vista Verde Vipers for bringing that energy and fun to Snowline and for sharing your school in Spotlight with us tonight. At this time, I'm very pleased to have our Vista Verde Vipers lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand up. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Vipers. That was wonderful. I appreciate it. And that will take us to the student presentation.
All right. Well, thank you, Vista Verde, for coming tonight. We really appreciate having students to kick off our meeting again. I know Mrs. Hughes and Mrs. White and Mrs. Barber are very excited about you presenting and showing off all your great skills. And I'm really excited. In fact, I hope this board meeting goes viral tonight because I hear you're going to be talking about the 3 branches of government. And I certainly know that there's probably a lot of people over at our nation's capital that could learn a thing or two from you tonight. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Hughes. And then maybe Mrs. Hughes, you can go ahead and introduce the team.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Miller. So welcome, everybody. I'm very proud to serve as the principal at Vista Verde, and just seeing Giselle and Katie and Amira and all of those beautiful faces, I know for sure we're ready to go. But they could not be in the position that they're in without the amazing efforts from Miss Robin Laughlin and Miss Brandy White. So I'm very thankful for their hard work, and it's good to know that how our government works and civics are still being taught, especially at the elementary level, so that way we can continue to be informed democratic citizens. And so we are ready to go. Ms. White, take it away.
Hi, thank you. So 3rd grade standard is to learn about the 3 branches of government and then focus more on local government, which that's where we started at the beginning of the year. And then we talked about voting. And then we went into the national 3 branches of government, which led to this project. Thanks to Mrs. Laughlin for sharing some beautiful resources. So again, the kiddos, you're going to see that they look the same, but they were all given the opportunity to make it their own, however they wanted. And they had multiple ways of presenting, both by video or live in class. And these guys are just a small representative of the awesome scholars that did this assignment a couple weeks ago. So yes, it definitely fell into perfect timing with the inauguration and just kind of all tied itself nicely. So we're going to start with the executive branch. And so Giselle, go ahead and present. Go ahead and turn your mic on, sweetie.
The three branches of government. The executive branch of government is headed by the president. It's responsible for head of state and commander-in-chief. Appointing Supreme Court justice, veto bills, signing bills into laws, approving and carrying out justice. The executive branch is responsible for improving and carrying out laws. This branch is nation government is headed by the president, who is elected by people. The president leads country. He also signs laws. Laws are rules. The president meets with the leaders of other countries. They try to solve problems in the world. He leads our armed forces. They help keep our country safe. The president lives and works in the White House.
Nice, Giselle. So they also went into writing from a thinking map. And then what I really like about Giselle is she added a lot of red, white, and blue in her colors in the paper. And even in the writing, she used different color pencil. So she was really creative with her assignment. Thank you, Giselle. What is your favorite branch of government?
My favorite is the legislative.
And why do you like that branch?
Because the legislative branch is also called Congress. I want to be a Congress when I grow up, and he leads our country.
Okay, thank you. All right, good job, Giselle. Next, Kenya. She is also going to present the executive branch.
What I like about the executive branch is that the executive branch of government is headed by Joe Biden, the president. Second, we have the first African American Vice President, Kamala Harris. They are responsible for approving, signing, and laws, and meet with world leaders.
Show us your presentation, Kenya.
Show us all of them. You gotta do it all together, baby. And get the front.
Thank you, Kenya. What I appreciate about Kenya is that she colored her project, even though it wasn't a requirement to color it so beautifully. She detailed the buildings and gave us a rainbow on the front page.
All right, now we're going to move into the legislative branch, and Amira, go ahead and present.
You gotta speak out.
My favorite branch is the judicial branch. The judicial branch makes sure the laws are written and used correctly. The Supreme Court has 9 justices. They work in the Supreme Court building. The job of the Supreme Court is to carry out justice. They decide if the laws are fair or unfair. The Supreme Court is the highest, most important court in the United States.
Show us the other pages, Amira.
Mira. And next, we're going to have Max present the legislative branch. Thank you, Max. Your turn.
Hi guys, my name is Maxina Bolaños, and this is my project of the three branches of the government. Okay, this is the executive, and this is the legislative, and the last branch is the judicial. Okay. But I'm going to present the legislative branch. The legislative branch. The legislative branch is also called Congress. The branch is made of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Citizens elect representatives who meet in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The Senate has 100 people because 2 people get elected from each state, and there are 50 states. The House of Representatives has 435 seats. Each state has different numbers of seats. It depends on the population, so some states have more seats than others. What Congress does is print money, collect taxes, and make laws. The way laws are made is first a bill is introduced, then it goes to a committee, and then Congress votes to accept or reject the bill. Finally, the president approves it or vetoes the bill. Congress also keeps an eye on the other branches to make sure money is spent properly and to make sure they are doing their job. This is called oversight. Also, Congress has the power to declare war.
Very nice, Max. And I like how you wrote your stuff on the back so you could still present. And what your favorite? Oh, okay, you printed it. That's even better. So, which one is your favorite and why?
The legislative is my favorite because it has the power to declare war.
Okay. And that leads us into the judicial branch. Miss Katie, take it away.
This is my judicial branch, and this is the 3 branches of government. The Supreme Court carries justice, also making sure laws are fair. They also decide if a person has broken the law. On top of that, they declare laws unconstitutional. That's the judicial branch.
And Katie, which one is your favorite?
I like the executive.
Because?
It talks about the president, and the president leads our country.
Okay, thank you very much. So, going back to big government, but also with a focus on local government, boys and girls, you're presenting here. This is part of our local government. So thank you to the board for letting us present. And thank you to Ms. Laffin for helping this happen. And thank you, parents and kiddos, for doing an awesome job. You guys are just awesome.
That was excellent. Thank you so much. Great presentation and so relevant. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? I don't see any hands going up. Oh, Member Bristol.
Great job, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you guys coming out and giving us that wonderful presentation. And thank you for being our school in spotlight tonight. Just love it. Thank you, guys. And I know you all probably have much more interesting things to do and instead of watching local government in action tonight. So if you have dinner and other tasks to do tonight, please feel free to take care of those items, and good luck with all your studies.
Thank you, Mrs. White and Mrs. Laughlin and all of the wonderful Vipers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Have we any community comments to be read tonight?
We sure do, President Hernandez. So with your approval, I'll go ahead and read those.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Our first comment is from Jeff Kirby. His item that he is commenting on is the reopening of school. He says, thank you for diligently pressing to reopen schools as soon as possible. What roadblocks are in the way of reopening? It's Tuesday. Why has the safety plan not yet been submitted? This comment is from a concerned parent. And it just says, why not focus the district's energy on a solid reopening plan for next year, August, rather than putting these kids through more changes with only 12 weeks left of school? We are going into the third trimester, and some of these kids will lose their teachers and classmates with only this time left of school. The next comment is from Emily, and her comment is regarding COVID safety measures for reopening. These are the questions for which I would appreciate answers. We all know grant money was issued, but what did the district specifically spend this money on? What did the district actually do to make sure each school site is ready to go? What has each site done to be prepared? What does going back to full enrollment with these accommodations being met actually look like? What is the plan in keeping everyone safe and PPE accessible after more vouchers are granted for openings with higher amounts of students allowed? With the current grant money being issued, once that money runs out, how will the district and school sites be able to provide PPE? What are the contingency plans for when things go wrong or there is a lack of access to items needed, and what does that implementation look like? What is the plan for when there is an exposure in a single class or a larger scale? A plan for the students and one for the staff? How is staff going to be held accountable for following COVID safety measures? How are students going to be held accountable for following safety measures? Why is the district being fully transparent about all of this? And that is what it says. Why is the district? Maybe they meant, why is the district not being fully transparent? I know many parents want to send their children to school when vouchers are issued to do so, but they also want to know their child is actually safe when there. Honestly, that trust will only be given when we feel like we are being completely in the loop. The district and the sites need to be more upfront about the known information, as many of us do understand that the district and schools can only make changes when our government lets them know it. It definitely should not feel this unorganized and this difficult to get this knowledge. Thank you for your time and assistance in helping us all to feel safe and comfortable with sending our children back to school when they are allowed to do so. We do very much appreciate all the hard work being done. The next comment is from Bill Conrad, 5th grade teacher at Baldy Mesa Elementary School, regarding reopening of our elementary schools hybrid style. I'll do my best to keep this short. This is the fourth time I've submitted a comment to the board regarding the reopening of our elementary schools. Now that the San Bernardino County schools have been given the green light as of yesterday to reopen elementary schools under a hybrid model, I am hoping beyond hope that Snowline is ready to do just that. It is way past time to bring all of our kids in elementary school back on campus. The numbers are low. The desire and willingness is there on the parts of parents, students, and teachers. The PPE is available. The vaccine is rolling out, et cetera, et cetera. Remote school, or Zoom school, as I like to call it, has been a blessing and a curse. I have watched some of my students excel. I have watched others grow increasingly disassociated with school as the days, weeks, and months of this have dragged on. And I have also watched as the system of school has failed so many of my students and their families. I know that so much of this was out of any of our control, and that we were completely powerless over the data, the protocols, and the ever-changing rules that guided our reopening. And I thank each and every one of you of the Snowline Board and in the Snowline administration for your diligence, your guidance, and your open and honest communication with all of us throughout this time. And now I implore you to please move forward quickly with any of the necessary paperwork, planning, filing of documents with the state, etc., so that we can begin our elementary hybrid model ASAP. March 8th, March 15th, March 29th at the latest. One can dream. Thanks, y'all. C-Rad out. This is from a parent, and it just has a public comment that says, will staying remote still be an option for those of us who do not yet feel comfortable sending our students back? And that is it, Mr. President Hernandez.
Thank you for that, Ms. Stout. Dr. Holman, as appropriate, would you take the time to reach out to any of the folks that are looking for response?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. All right, we'll move to the next item in our agenda tonight, which is adoption of the agenda. As I was recently educated on, it's at this time that the board, any board member may motion to remove an item from the agenda. So for tonight and for future reference, now would be the time to do that. So with that information, do I have a motion to accept the agenda as has been presented?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Member Behringer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bristol. We'll take a roll call vote. Clerk Loom? Aye. Member Behringer?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you for that. That will take us to item H for the consent agenda.
Well, President Hernandez, I'm sorry for the interruption.
Oh, my apologies. Yes.
No, not a problem. Did you want to read out the consent items that were approved, or have Nancy do that?
I believe we just adopted the agenda.
Oh, gosh. President Hernandez, do you want to just ignore everything that I just said because I was totally out of place and out of line, and my apologies?
We will strike it from the record, sir.
Thank you.
Excellent. So that does take us to the consent agenda. Item H, at this time, I'll request if there are any items from the board members that requested to be pulled from consent for separate approval. Are there any items? I see no request for that. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as it has been presented? I'll do so. Thank you, Member Clerk Colum. My apologies. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Member Bristol. We'll take a roll call. Oh, are there any other questions or discussions for items in the consent agenda? All right, roll call. Clerk Colum. Aye. Member Behringer.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And to summarize consent agenda, we just approved the minutes of the Snowline Joint Unified School District Board of Trustees study session and regular meeting by teleconference on February 9th. The personnel motions, agreement between Snowline Joint Unified School District and Kelvin Education, student readmissions, and ratification of the district financial transactions. And that will take us to item I1, the school plans for student achievement, or SIPSA, and turn that over to Mr. Miller.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I'm really excited to have all of our wonderful principals and Dr. Pam Buchanan with us again tonight. Just once again, want to preface all of the hard and thoughtful work that went into developing these plans. The principals always do an excellent job in making them both relevant and meaningful, and that is especially challenging during this time of remote learning and just having a different learning environment in which to operate in. So I want to give them the full credit for all of this wonderful work ahead of time. And just to say to all the members of our board, I hope that if questions arose during your time of reviewing these documents came up, I hope you felt inclined to reach out to the school sites to get your questions answered. I didn't field any questions myself on process. I don't know if Pam did either, but we always want to have those open channels of communication, especially when we have such intense reading as this during that block of time that you're so diligently reviewing these documents. So, with that being said, we do have our principals here to field any questions that you have. If you were up against the 11th hour reviewing these documents and you'd like to ask questions regarding specific documents or the process itself, please feel free to do so.
Thank you for that. I guess as I get prepared, I'll open it up to the rest of the board if there are any questions at the moment.
No questions. Fantastic work, everybody. Thank you.
Ton of work. I guess I have a few items that, yes, I was unfortunately not able to get these out prior to, but I appreciate all the principals being here tonight so that we can discuss. I would like to start with non-traditional schools. I appreciate so much comment in your SIPSA regarding the social worker and the work that's being done. Just a general question, how has that position been utilized this past year with remote school?
Can you repeat the last part of that question again, sir? I missed that.
Basically looking for how the social worker has played a role in the remote school process.
How Cheyenne has really been working for us anyway, and I can't talk for the other schools, but anytime that we have any students that are having difficulty with any COVID barriers, right, whether it's a loss of family member, a sick parent, a sick sibling, just struggling with the work in general and just the mental difficulties that remote learning presents to some students, she's been a tremendous help. We can reach out to her at any time, get her in contact with these families, and she's there for support. It seems like 24 hours a day. So she's been a tremendous help for us in just connecting with students and making sure that they stay connected to the school.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Just read through your SIPSA how much that social worker means at your school and the good work that can be done, and glad to hear that it's been extended during this time. So thank you for that. If I can move over to Pinion Hills. Let me take a look at my question there. You know what, this, it may not be in particular to Pinion Hills. Saw this repeatedly through most of the SIPSAs. English language arts, mathematics. We're reporting CASP 2018-2019 scores with an expected outcome for the 2020-2021 CASP reporting. Is it a little high achieving, perhaps, to expect such an increase? I mean, most schools that I was reading on are showing like you're expecting a 5% increase. Do you feel that's going to be reasonable with this year, and how, I don't know if there has been learning loss. I know we are all struggling to get to that point, but if I can just maybe take comments from around the room, how you feel that is going to come out this year with remote learning being our main model here.
Hi, Mr. Hernandez. First and foremost, I would say that I think state testing is a little far-fetched this year, to be honest with you. And I'm absolutely, I love data. I think it's important. I think it drives the work. But unfortunately, we don't get that choice this year. Would I say 10% is too much? Not necessarily. I keep the same standard every single year. I believe in high expectations. I believe my teachers have done the best work they can. Do I believe there's going to be learning loss? Absolutely. But do I believe that our avid coyotes and our staff are doing the best they can with the parameters? Yes.
Beautiful, Dr. Avery. Thank you. I noticed that yours was one of the higher expectations at that 10%. And I mean, absolutely love the enthusiasm and striving for it. I mean, we all need that. We need to push harder for that. I do understand that CASP is going to move forward this year, correct? Yeah. So other schools, do you have any other comments?
I can echo what Shannon said. Basically, we do have data, but the validity of that data is in question. So, I mean, we're really kind of chasing our tails on those goals, if you will, because I don't even know if I have enough confidence in that data to really reflect it against our goals. So I expect all of us to be using a lot more assessment than the CASP data.
Sure. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
Yeah, just real quick, President Hernandez, just want to say thank you to our folks for keeping that bar set high. And I really appreciate your sentiments about being realistic during this challenging time, because of course, we're not naive to the fact that we will be experiencing some learning losses, despite of how hard teachers and administrators are working to keep that gap as tight as possible. But yes, it became official. It was hot off the press today that we will be moving forward with state testing as we move into spring. So I want to thank our principals, in particular, and our teachers as well, and Dr. Buchanan, because they have kept the testing at the forefront. We were hoping we might receive a little grace this year because of the relevance and really the validity of the testing, but it will be moving forward. And I think, and I know we're in a lot better position to move forward with it, being that we haven't let our foot off the gas.
Member Hernandez, I'll chime in from Wrightwood as well. And that is, I think the biggest concern for me is just the educational gap widening over this year. I think when we establish those goals, we typically shoot for 5% growth every year. If we grew 5% every year over 3, 4, 5 years, boy, our scores would be looking really good. But in some years we exceed that 5%. Some years we don't meet that goal, but that's kind of our consistent target. But as far as that gap widening, there will be some kids in the remote learning that have a home structure that allows their learning to continue and even flourish with a lot of individual help at home from parents who are able to help them a lot individually at home. And then there are others who aren't as fortunate. And I'm concerned about that gap really widening over this school year, which I think really makes those cohorts that all of us are bringing back or planning to bring back, it makes those cohorts for those at-risk students even more important. And those students with the acute needs, those are the ones that we really need to make sure are getting that extra help if we can give it to them.
Yeah, gosh, that's excellent. That's too what I'm worried about, the gap between different groups there. And I did have a comment or a question to Ryewood, to you. Your goal 3 for English learners. I guess first off, what do you happen to know off the top of your head? And sorry to put you on the spot for this, but what percentage of students at Ryewood are English learners?
Well, it's easier for me to do the math by just counting the number of students rather than the percentage.
Sure.
I think we have about 6 students that are EL. Okay. They're different. They are at different levels. Some are, some are on the cusp of actually graduating out of that EL program, and some are at the lower levels, still at those primary levels of English learning. So, but yeah, we just have a handful. And so what we've seen in the data for our EL students is literally one student significantly changes that group's performance, because we only have just such a few. But,
sure.
Yeah.
I think that's where my question came from. Your baseline is indicating that levels 1 through 3 are currently where your students are at, and that your goal or the metric is to improve everybody at least one level. Is that levels 1 through 3 out of, is that 5 levels, or I'm not familiar with that level system?
I'm going to need help with somebody that's more familiar with the EL classifications.
It's a new test that's just, we're in our second year of right now. So that's why the levels are a little different than the old test. But I believe it's 4, John. I believe there's 4 levels in there in the new test.
Yeah. And typically, Member Hernandez, actually our students do typically progress through that test or through those levels pretty rapidly, by growing a band a year. That's pretty common with our students at Wrightwood.
Okay, no, good. I guess that was a segue into more of what I wanted to discuss. Fairly uniformly across all the schools, it's apparent that by at least the 18-19 school year, that our English learners are far behind their English-speaking counterparts. Various schools are dedicating 30 minutes daily to improving language access. Clearly, what we're doing is perhaps not enough. We live in a district with, I believe it's about 56% population that is Hispanic or Latino. I believe that the number is around 15 to 20% that are English learners. What is it that we have to do to turn this program around? We are seeing a gap. Schools such as Pinion Mesa Middle School are reporting previous CASP data that only 7% of their English learner students met or exceeded standards, and only 3% of those met or exceed the English language arts standards. This data is clear that this group is falling behind, and we're not providing for them. In 2019, several of the board members, including myself, attended the annual education conference, and there I learned of CABE, the California Association of Bilingual Education, and their programming called Dual Language Immersion, or DLI, was the concept that you're not teaching in English or in Spanish, but you're teaching in 2 languages, that the students learn simultaneously through both languages, and that their research showed that English speakers not only became fluent in their second language, but dramatically outpaced their single language counterparts in every area of study. English, math, science, social studies, history, all aspects of education vastly increased. Simultaneously, the Spanish speakers became fully fluent in the English language, but fared as well as English speakers in the DLI program. Not only were their academics through the roof, but their social connections and emotional well-being dramatically improved. Bullying, race relations were all improved. DLI adds to the mixture an emotional or adds an empathetic piece of education missing, I believe, from our schools currently, cultural education. Both cultures were immersed into each other's traditions and celebrated. So no longer are there boundaries of misunderstanding, but a comprehension of other person's values, beliefs, and a history. So I wanted to discuss that idea of dual language, that, CABE has a goal of all school districts within California by 2030 teaching in 2 languages. District down in Norco just adopted, or at least as of 2019 or the 2020 school year, adopted Mandarin as another immersion language. And so I think there is a lot of work that we can do. And I look to the administration, to the principals, of your thoughts of what it would take for us to evolve the idea of what language is. We would no longer have English learners in a separate class, but English learners interspersed with English speakers learning together, and everybody improving scores, tests, math, science, English, everything. I think it is a piece that has come time and something that we can do. And the idea would be elementary through middle school, that this program would really be so beneficial. But by the time you get to high school, you would have already surpassed all requirements to receive the state certificate of biliteracy. I think it is programming that is long past due. It can really fill or defeat these gaps that we're seeing, and something that I really want to take a look at for the future. Just don't know if any of the principals right now have any input or any thoughts about that kind of a program. Is there anybody that would like to comment or perhaps has some insight?
President Hernandez, I appreciate your comments regarding that. That at Baldy Mesa, we have about 120 students that are English learners. I've thought about that, the dual immersion program, and I think what it comes really down to is staffing. Sometimes it's hard to find those bilingual teachers to lead a dual immersion program. And so I think, we have to be very thoughtful in terms of if we want to, as a district, build something out like that, we really do need to target, educators that are bilingual and are passionate about it. I will tell you through many interviews that I've had with several groups of teachers just in my very short tenure as a principal, it's hard to find those bilingual teachers maybe in this area, but I think that, to me, that has to be the first piece is and one, how do you target that necessarily as a public entity in terms of hiring for specific needs? That is just something that I always think about if I was to look at starting a program like that at my site.
Absolutely right. In speaking with the folks at CABE, that is their number one. Where do you find enough teachers to perform that task? It's complete education in 2 languages, and that takes a next level instruction that the state is having difficulty finding. And I think some of the MOUs that we have with the universities around us could serve a purpose to get that kind of talent onboarded here. So I appreciate those comments, Mr. Rahola. Any other comments from other principals?
President Hernandez, Sean at Heritage, just want to let you know that oftentimes as you build upon what Mr. Grijalva said, that you have to think about acting locally to kind of get to your global goal, right? If you have some teachers at one school that, maybe has that passion, because to go out and just wholesale find people to come into our district. But I'll give you an example. At my middle school, I've got Todd Anton, who's fluent in German, right? He took it, he studied, he's traveled, and so on. So you know what he did? He started a German club, right? So now, again, any middle school student who could join. I've got Rob Roy Quinn, who's bilingual in Spanish, so he will use Spanish in his classrooms. So, if you start local with some interest base, again, that's middle school level versus elementary. If you're really talking dual immersion, I believe it starts down in the lower elementary, right? So we have to kind of work our way up. But again, if you think of it from, could a teacher who is passionate, kind of start getting that rock rolling towards what our bigger district goal would be. So, again, just an idea. Again, sometimes that local, starts to grab a little momentum as we go. Thanks for letting me share.
Oh, I appreciate that time, Mr. Primo. Wonderful. Well, these are absolutely things that, there's so much work to be done. Are we serving our community correctly? Are we doing all that we can? And are we providing our students with next level education and evolution of what we should be teaching and how we can teach it? So there's much more discussion to happen on this topic, but something I did want to introduce and start a dialogue on with all of you. You are the absolute professionals of our district. You are in touch with both our scholars and the staff, so you will know most of what we need to do to move forward. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Are there any other comments from the board or any comments to my question?
Yes, President Hernandez, if I could just kind of close the loop on that, just with our ELD efforts, because yes, not denying at all that there's a lot of work to do with our students that are our English learners. Just wanted to, first of all, capture with the 4 levels on our LPAC, just so the board is totally clear on what they are. There are 4, just like that we had previously, but level 1 is minimally developed. And of course, there's a larger narrative that goes along that describes that. Somewhat developed for level 2, moderately developed for level 3, well developed for number 4. I just want to once again give accolades to our site leadership and all the wonderful EL coaches that we have at each school site, because a lot of work, a lot of time and energy is going into those efforts, and maybe they're not showing up on paper right now, but they will be because of the efforts and commitment there. I guess our vision, and I think the principals would agree with me, is that we want to become a lot more purposeful in our both our integrated and designated ELD time. Integrated being what's happening as far as language development in the overall classroom, just that additional language support that's happening when you have all kids there, but also being able to pull groups of kids dependent on what their ELD level is, and being able to give that designated time for that more intensive language support. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and President Hernandez, if I can just say something real quickly, boy, you heard from just all the experts there, right? So appreciate what Alan just mentioned, not to mention our site leaders. They understand, I think, best what you ask them. I'll just talk about it on a bigger picture, though. Our next meeting, we'll be talking more about our core values and our belief statements right attached to that. And then the goals. And I want to really capitalize on what you talked about. And you made that mention about all the priorities and so forth. And that just gives that great opportunity for us across our entire system, right, to truly determine what we're most principled about with our core values, how those are operationalized through our belief statements, and then aligning our goals directly to those 2 aforementioned organizational structures. So I appreciated the reference to the work that you mentioned that happens across this system, and that allow you as board members, the collective 5, to really start to have that conversation around what's most important to the district and us, and thereby implementing that. And again, it's just a tremendous thanks to all the site leaders for all the work they do on their SIPSs, of course, but particularly for the conversations around this. So thanks so very much there, President Hernandez.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, again, to the site leaders, 30, 40 pages, each of you, just a ton of work. Really appreciate all that effort. So the SIPSs are presented to the board tonight for approval. So can I get a motion to accept the school plan for student achievement as they have been presented?
I will move approval.
Thank you, Member Behringer. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Member Bristol. We'll take a roll call vote. Clerk Kalum.
Aye.
Member Behringer.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
And Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much again to all the site leaders. To appreciate all the effort and all the time tonight. All right, that'll take us to thank you. Item J1 for approval is the contract writer between Curative Incorporated and San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes, thank you, President Hernandez. We are bringing to you tonight the rider with Curative that goes along with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools contract with Curative to provide opportunities for additional staff testing. That testing is unique in that it is oral swabs. It is self-administered under the observation of a Curative-trained Snowline staff member. And what we foresee using these tests for as available, if and as available, is for any mandated testing cadences of staff and students engaged with in-person learning on school campuses. And that is still a possibility that could happen. And also last Friday, the state came out with some additional guidelines for high school athletic requirements that may require some testing of certain athletes in certain sports the week of or prior to competitions to having a negative test before they'll be able to compete. So really, we're just looking at this as using as that and precautionary measures for healthy staff who believe they have been a close contact of an ill staff member, regardless of whether that staff member may be ill with COVID or not ill with COVID. But it allows us to have access to something more than the current first through third Thursday afternoon COVID testing that Borrego is doing an amazing job of providing for us, which is a nasal swab administered by an employee with Borrego through the window of somebody's vehicle.
All right, very good. Thank you. Any comments or questions to the contract writer? None. Okay, very good. Can I get a motion to approve the contract with Curative Corporation and San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Member Bristol. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Clerk Kalum. A roll call vote. Clerk Kalum?
Aye.
Member Behringer?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much for that. I'll take us to item K1, the approval, acceptance, or denial of a claim against the district. Dr. Holman.
Thank you so very much, President Hernandez. I just wonder if I can just go backward just real quickly and ask a favor of you, President Hernandez. I'm looking at my colleagues here, and those are all the site leaders. I've kept them up here early in the mornings and late at nights, and I know some have some commitments. Is that okay to put back to you, President Hernandez, if they so choose, because they've heard a lot of my next work here, if they need to leave, if they can? Is that all right there, President Hernandez?
No, I enjoy them being here. I miss their faces. These are, I know each and every one of them. I love their faces and really appreciate them being around. But yes, I think that's appropriate. We can allow them to depart and take care of more meaningful tasks tonight.
Well, I so appreciate that. I can tell they would stay if you need to, honestly, and you know that they would. So I do appreciate that, President Hernandez. But like I said, I've been keeping them probably on 12 and 13-hour days. So I appreciate that for sure. And so, and also,
is showing.
Yeah, for sure. And and that the last item too, they're all behind that last item, so we'll get to that in a moment. But so thanks so very much for that. Getting to the item that you spoke to directly. So thank you, President Hernandez. I'll be real direct on this. This comes from the closed session discussion. So of course, conversation out here in open session is not to occur. And all of you do know that, but it's really for all 5 of you to determine whether or not to accept or deny the claim, again, per the conversation in closed session.
Okay, very good. So we will take a motion to approve, or can I receive a motion on the claim to approve or to deny?
I make a motion to accept the claim.
To approve.
I will take the motion from Member Bristol to accept the claim. Member Flores, can I have your second?
I second.
Thank you so much. Do appreciate it. So a roll call vote. Clerk Colum. Aye. Member Behringer.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much for that. And that'll take us to item K2 for the 2021 CSBA Delegate Assembly elections. Dr. Holman, would you mind taking a moment to describe what that is for those who may not be aware?
Yeah, thank you, President Hernandez. I really appreciate that request. I think that's totally a real appropriate one for those, just as you mentioned, new and maybe anyone else who might be listening in here too. So this is a regular event to the extent that we will bring this to the board for a voting item here, and specifically looking for consensus and approval from the 5 of you as to who you want, the collective you want representing yourselves and your interests through CSBA. So maybe if you don't mind, Mr. Hernandez, I'll just take a step back with CSBA. That's the California School Boards Association, and just making sure everyone understands it's a I would argue a very, very resourceful and helpful assistive organization. It represents elected officials who govern public school districts, just like yourselves right here. Now, there are the membership's almost 1,000 educational agencies, if you will, the local educational agencies. That's almost every single school district in California. And so they have a very wide reach, and specifically what CSBA, as we often refer to them, again, California School Boards Association, they specifically focus in the areas of providing policy, political, legislative, and maybe even community advocacy. They are there to provide also training. We're used to getting outstanding training on a yearly basis from them. So that's CSBA. And then on the delegate assembly, then that's drilling down a little bit further. And there is an organization that small delegate assembly, if you will. And I say relatively small because I think there are 280 elected board members to the delegate assembly. There are 21 geographic regions. Our region tonight is the one that we'll be discussing. And it's that group there that then provides direction to CSBA. So then in turn, CSBA can provide direction at a state level. And so before you, President Hernandez, and everybody else, are 13 candidates to be elected or to be considered for election to the subregion, right? 16B here. 6 are the maximum number of representatives who can be elected. And really to you, President Hernandez, I'll turn it back to your purview here so you can share with your colleagues and determine which 6 or 5 or 4, doesn't have to be 6, you would like to vote for representation for the subregion that is 16B technically.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I did review all the candidates, but in my review, I did notice, and I can appreciate that though there are those that represent the high desert areas or the Mojave River Valley that we're trying to become known as well as the mountain areas. Of course, all districts are important. I think only the folks from up here would have that perspective of what it takes for our kind of our area, our community. So in that, I would support the 5 individuals of the high desert and mountain region coming from Lucerne Valley, Hesperia, Victor Elementary, and Bear Valley School District. I've got those 5 names: Tom Courtney, Mark Dundon, Gabriel Stein, Eric Swanson, and Paul Zamoyta. But to the rest of the board, have you any comments on these delegates?
Those were the 5 that I had, so I concur with that recommendation.
This is crazy. I don't know if you could see this because I have it blurred, but those are the 5 I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Clerk Loom, any comment to that?
I'm good with that, but since we can nominate 6, could we add Mondi Taylor? I just read her bio, her sketch seemed kind of impressive to me.
I don't have a problem with that. Member Flores, have you any comment?
Looks good to me.
Yes, sir. So I have got Tom Courtney, Mark Dundon, Gabriel Stein, Eric Swanson, Paul Zamoyta, and was it Mondi Taylor? Let me get that correct spelling.
You're correct, President Hernandez. It's Mondi.
Sorry about that. Mondi.
That's okay. I have the ballot in front of me.
Okay, very good. Well, then I believe we have consensus on those 6 individuals.
That was way easier than I thought it was going to be.
Nancy, what action must we take with this tonight, other than what we just did?
I need a motion and a second to accept those names, and then I can validate the ballot and send it in.
All right. Can I get a motion for the 6 names just read to be the Region 16B Delegate Assembly, representatives?
I make the motion.
Thank you, Member Bristol. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Clerk Loom. We'll take a roll call vote. Clerk Loom?
Aye.
Member Behringer?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. A unanimous vote for these 6. Thank you for that. And takes us to item K3, which will round out our night. Dr. Holman.
Thank you, President Hernandez. You're right. Here is the presentation that I was just in my head trying to scale up. It's over 15, maybe 17 times we've done this. I don't know if that's anything that we ever would have guessed and probably would not want to do, right? But we've been doing this on a regular basis to try to provide the information to all of you, of course, as our board members and anyone who'd like to access it. I'll make the point right now, like to access this presentation. Our Director of Marketing, Public Relations, Risk Management, James Fields, does a wonderful job putting this on the website. And so it's always there, the most updated presentation. So certainly like being able to share that information again, so that we can ensure that folks who need communication and can't attend these settings can access that. So again, it's the Learning Design Update. Many thanks as always to Alan Miller for doing the work that I always appreciate, Alan, and that is forwarding our slides here. And again, just full disclosure here, some of these slides remain the same. They remain the same, of course, because there has not been a change, but I always want to keep them in here so that, again, not just for the posting on the website, but all of you know what continues. So again, Alan, if you could just go right to slide 2, those same outcomes remain, right? The shared understanding about what's happening across our system relative to learning, and then ultimately, what are those commitments to ensure the greatest success moving forward. And slide 3, we'll see where we are with that agenda there. on that agenda. A lot of the same, right? The public health guidance. We're going to talk about the designs that we're using. COVID-19, the data. We always like to share with you the data and what those conditions are across our system in San Bernardino County. And then you can see as we move forward, the specific in-person learning that you know about. And but we need to give you those real detailed updates. So you have the information around the Safe Schools for All Plan 2 vaccinations. But then on that second to last bullet, want to really emphasize, get direction relative to our recommended reopening strategy. And then those recommended next steps on the last slide. So Alan, thank you for being patient with me. We always like to remind you and so appreciate the commitment that we really endeavor to do each and every day. And that's follow the public health guidance, federal, state, and local level, right? And you see those icons up there representing those. I think we've been really dedicated doing so, and we thank you for allowing us to continue to do that. And with that next slide there, Alan, as we can go to that next one, we've got 2 learning designs, at home and in person, right? We're going to talk about in person when we can. There's a lot of information about that. We'll spend most of our time there. The at home is going on right now, and it's not lost on any of you. Remote school and homeschool. And now as we go to slides 6 and 7, there's homeschool through Snowline Academy. That slide's been there since day one, the 15, 16, 17 times ago, right? But then also, as we go to the next slide, Alan, there's a remote school that remains there too. So fortunate to have those 2 choices, those options that allows for our families to make the best decision considering the circumstances. So as we go to slide 8 here, let's get into just that reminder. This is important. We'll mention it now and we'll come back to it too. Just that reminder, those metrics that are being monitored, the daily new cases, the adjusted rate specifically, right? The positivity rate, and then in the lowest quartile, those areas that have healthy places challenges on that index, the positivity rate for those areas as well. Those are the 3 metrics at the state level that specifically provide for access to in-person learning. Those guidelines have changed, but for right now, those 3 indicators allow for in-person learning or not at the middle school and high school level. People listening might be saying, what about elementary school? We'll get to that in just a moment, but those still are in play. And technically elementary school can fall into that too, but there's another design that we'll talk about that supersedes it, that's newer guidelines. So Alan, as we go to slide 9, we'll see that tiered system, and I'm going to come back to it again in a little bit there. We're in widespread, the purple, and that means, very simply put, that the daily case rate is above 7. And or the positivity rates are above 8, and that any one of those triggers any county in being at the widespread level, the purple tier, and that's where our county is. But we're going to talk about that now. So Alan, let's just hone in on the data here, and let's talk about within the county. Let's start small, directly with our own communities here. Oak Hills, you see that 24.1, that's the daily new cases rate. This is the most recent data that's come forth, and you can see the positivity rate as well. Those numbers significantly lower. I can tell you again, short of 2 months, definitely short of 2 months ago, about 6 weeks ago, Oak Hills was in the 200s. You can see the drastic decrease there. Alan, as you go to the next slide, and we'll see all of our communities within our boundaries here, right? Phelan, 12.6. That's been 3 figures, right? It's down to 12.6. And then Pinion Hills is the next one. Thank you, Alan, for just moving along here so well. 1.8 is the daily case rate at Pinion Hills. And the most recent data that comes out every Monday. Victorville, that's the entire city, not just the portion that you mentioned, President Hernandez, out in the northeast corner of our district. This is all of Victorville, 19.7 on that daily new cases rate. And then, Alan, the last one will be Wrightwood, and thank you for switching to that, 5.5. Again, all of these numbers, these community numbers, great to see, to the extent that we want them all to be 0, of course, right? But if we really put this in context, significantly lower incidence of COVID-19 in our own boundaries, in our own communities. It's just really nice to be talking about these numbers instead of triple digit numbers that we had been in about 6 weeks ago. So as we continue from the local data, let's go to San Bernardino County. Look at this slide here, right? You probably figured this out. I always eliminate 2 weeks, right? And then I add 2 weeks, right? Just because maybe, forgive me if you want more, you might be able to see the smaller numbers. I probably can't, right? But this has been purple for a long time. Notice the difference in colors, right? That purple tier there, right down there at the bottom on February 13th. Those are the most recent data. Again, San Bernardino County, as well as all counties. I'm going to be really clear here. All 58 counties work in 8 to 9 day arrears, if you will, of data, right? It's not just San Bernardino County. It's all counties in the state. February 13th, an adjusted case rate. You can see that for San Bernardino County at 16.4. I can tell you today's rate is 14.3. Right? So this was Monday's. I'm just using the one that's used for the California Department of Public Health reporting. Today's rate is 14.3. And you can see those numbers, from 90, 105. What's eliminated from just going backward 7 days, December 19th, and backward again, December 12th, are even larger numbers, right? Larger numbers well into the triple digits. So you can see a drastic decline there. And just want to hone in on the positivity rate for the county at 6.11 as of today. Again, that's yesterday's, data, if you will, as of today. Having talked to Corin Porter, the director, San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, it's at 6.0. And then the Healthy Places Index at 7.13 for the weekly reporting. As of today, it's 6.9. Again, trending downward in a significant way. Really nice to be able to report that. And Alan, as we go to slide 16, let's just again talk about our own district real quickly. You've gotten used to seeing this slide. 14.3 for Snowline, and you can see our weekly cases going from a high to the 200s for week after week after week after week. Slight decrease, and you can just see this real slide downward. It's really, really again nice to see that report and those data in the way that we see them declining. So thanks, Alan, for sharing the data that way. If we go to 17, got down on the left side just to say in this slide and try to slow down a little bit. There's just been numbers everywhere through this whole process, right? And that's why I chose that picture right there to just show there are numbers flying around everywhere. What I'm endeavoring to do right now is to talk, when we think about reopening, is try to get this real clear understanding. And I wouldn't expect anything other than questions like we received in the public comments. Very valid questions that, of course, I'll follow up on. But it is really hard to follow the reopening guidelines because there are so many guidelines and they've been changed so many times. And there's so many nuances between X and then Y and Z. So let me try to break this down here. And it says, what allows schools to reopen here? It's just the question that I asked myself here. So, of course, we've got to follow our guidelines, right, from the California Department of Public Health. And for cohorts, you're well aware, and it's been talked about, and we'll talk again. It's been so exciting to have our cohorts back up and going. They're for the kids with the most acute needs. That's by definition, by the guidelines in the state of California, the California Department of Public Health. But know that there's no impact from COVID-19 numbers to have cohorts operating. And so they're not attached to the numbers that go up and down to have cohorts with the strict guidelines for safety to be open for those kids, again, with the greatest needs. Very narrow band of kids, or it's narrow by virtue of what the guidelines say. But want to make sure we clarify that piece. Then for elementary schools, here's what I gave a little preview again, because we've talked about this, but making certain we all understand. For all of our elementary schools and all throughout the entire state, again, not just Snowline, but throughout the entire state, the consolidated schools guidance document is just that. It's consolidating so many guidelines, right? They're guiding us. But the measure for elementary schools to be able to reopen to in-person learning and what we might say is a hybrid design, I'll talk about that in a moment, right? But into in-person learning for all kids, with all the guidelines of physical distancing and masking and all those things, 25 daily new cases. Now, with that, that's the measure that needs to be attained for 5 straight days of 25 or less in the county, not in Snowline, but in the county. That was achieved as of Friday afternoon, because from Monday to Friday was the very first time in a long, long, long time that San Bernardino County had a daily new case rate of COVID-19 positive cases of 25 or less. So that then triggered, as of Friday afternoon, the ability for elementary schools to start working on reopening. I'll get to that in a moment. And then for middle schools, high schools, still attached to the color-coded tiered system, from purple to red to orange to yellow, right? And to get out of purple and to be able to reopen, the threshold that must be crossed is 7 daily cases per 100,000, and those positivity rates have to be at 8% or lower. And you saw before they're in the they're in the 6s, right? 6% on that middle one and 6.9 on the low one. So just trying to clarify the different rules that we and every school, right, all 1,000 districts within the 58 counties of California have to follow. And so then on slide 18, Alan. Thanks so much for, again, doing this work. Let's hone in on that first area that I talked about, cohorts. We've got in-person learning cohorts. We've got 24 open now. We've got 3 more coming tomorrow. They're coming. Thanks to the schools for identifying those kids, right? Special education, EL, kids without the services that they need from an internet standpoint. All those kids with the greatest needs, right? We talked about kids maybe not graduating, right? Making those cohorts happen so that they can get the support, again, through the guidelines of the California State Department of Public Health. And we also have 11 conditioning cohorts going on at various schools, and those can be coming soon. But there are also some other pieces that might then supersede what we're talking about with cohorts. And that's where we go to the next slide, right, Alan? On number 19, we talk about youth sports. So new guidance has come out for youth sports. Actually, this is a little rare, I think, in all the guidelines that have come out, in my opinion, is that the guidelines were put forth, but the changes aren't effective until a date out in the future. That's one of the first times I've seen that from the guidelines there. So what I'm telling you right now, this does not become effective until Friday. I don't think it's a huge, huge difference in how everything will end up playing out. But just interesting how that little nuance was put forth just a few days ago, or really at the end of last week. So bringing forth to all of you the most important pieces about youth sports, I'll just say this before I get to the 2 bullets. Youth sports, we're talking about all youth sports, not just at the high school level. It's governed by CIF, and there's CIF pieces that we can talk about as is appropriate. But we're talking youth sports up from, the youngest of ages all the way up through our high school level. Okay, that purple tier sports continue to be allowed. You've been very great about supporting this. We've got our cross country, tennis, and golf up at Toronto High School already doing their great work and getting those stable groups together, those stable groups in the team format to be able to get ready to compete. And so we're thrilled to be able to offer those opportunities for those kids. Question might come up, why just those 3 sports? Those are the only 3 sports that we offer at Toronto High School that are listed to be allowable in terms of competing when in the purple tier. So those are the guidelines. They're allowable, as we've talked about before. Those are the 3 sports that fall into there. And it might, you can probably make the guess there. There are a list of all the sports that fall in the purple tier, and they're typically those sports, right, that you might think about where they're either individual or that physical distancing can happen in a very easy way. So those are up and going. Let's talk about the red and orange tier, because I think this is really important with the new youth sports guidelines. Now, the important threshold number is 14. And you might remember I said a moment ago that today's case rate per the Director of Public Health, it's 14.3. So when we get to 14 or less, not just, this isn't in our district, right? For our entire county, when any county gets to that, it starts to trigger this ability to open up more sports in red and orange tiers. And specifically the outdoor sports, they're more permissible, as I wrote there, because if we think about COVID-19 and probably what we've all learned over time is that when we're outside, the transmission rate is typically less than when we're in a confined area. So when we think about outdoor sports like football, when we think about outdoor sports beyond that, right? Those that are in the red and orange tiers, right? Meaning that they weren't allowed to open until the case rate got below 7 into the red, and then got below that into 5 into the orange tiers. This 14 rate is new now. It's what Governor Newsom had talked about 10 days ago. Finally, we enacted this piece. And so it adds the ability, for instance, one sport would be football, to get up and going. Now, Dennis Zimmerman did a great job alluding to this when we talked about curative. One of the requirements for football to get up and going is to add in testing. And again, I don't have to say anymore because Dennis, alluded to it very well. But still, again, more sports are allowable when we get into that 14 or less range. And again, I just want to emphasize that testing piece is added, is one of the challenges, but we're certainly committed to finding ways to making that happen so that what we feel like we've heard from you all along, right, is how do we do what's best for kids? How do we give them opportunities still while remaining safe? So look very soon for some more information relative to as we get below 14, we're going to have more practices then opening up and then kids being able to compete. And I just really want to give a huge thanks to, when we think at the high school level, Joe Knowlton, the athletic director up there, is just doing great work with the other athletic directors up here in this high desert to try to really do all that we can to give those opportunities at that level. And I can tell you, we're even working with our middle schools to talk about what we can do when youth sports become allowable with that 14 case rate and make competitions available, whether it be intramural, right, meaning in-house, if you will, as well as external with other districts that will be able to commit to doing that in a safe way. So that's exciting news given the numbers that we're at. And Alan, when we get to number 20 and talk about the guidelines that we're following, let's talk about elementary school reopening requirements. And I just want to clarify something that we as a senior cabinet have been using, and that's we want to be reopening our schools, I should say, at the elementary school level and all of our schools as quickly and as safely as possible, but always being within the guidelines that are necessary and doing it together, right? And doing it together. And so with that, the requirements to reopen now, remember we talked about we were below for 5 straight days. Know that I should make this note, right? In the effort to be completely transparent. If in fact San Bernardino County goes back up, right? We're trending downward. We're at 14.3. But if at any point in time it goes back up above 25, all school districts that have not opened have to be put on pause. Those are the rules. Those are in all the guidelines. So I want to make that very, very clear. Right now, the trend is, again, outstanding. So we're real excited about that. And so people might say, well, what needs to be done? It's mentioned in the community comments, that COVID-19 safety plan. That has been at the ready. We've had that primed and ready. And we're just waiting to get ourselves past those 5 days. And I say it's been ready because of the great work of people I'm staring at, right? Dennis Zimmerman, Robert Chacon, James Fields, all of our site leaders and so forth. For a long time, we've had our safety plan at the ready. People might say, well, why is it not posted? Why is it not up there? One is, legally, we don't have to have it posted until we're getting ready to reopen, right? So there's not a problem there from ourselves not following the guidelines. Why we waited until this moment is we want to make sure that we got all the updated requirements into that plan. And in that second bullet, consulted with our stakeholders, right? Those are our labor organizations, families, and community members. We want to do that authentically and ensure that we are making certain that, as was, I think, as I said, I would say very often, it's very hard to follow those rules. And so we'll do our due diligence moving forward, as you see in our strategy slide in just a moment, our due diligence with those groups. So that, again, it's one thing as I look at Robert Chacon's shirt to say better together on the shirt. It's another thing to live it, right? We live that, and we want to make sure that we're doing this together as we do this reopening in the way that we feel like is necessary, as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, ensuring it's within the public health guidelines, and we're doing it together. So with that construct in mind, let's drill down to some real details here in 21 there, Alan, and those thereafter. We want to make sure you know. I just want to bring this to the table, that Safe Schools for All plan. This is what I really believe it's cases like this and instances like this that create some confusion. This was the plan, or was still is the plan that was presented on December 30th by Governor Newsom and is running in effect kind of parallel. Okay. So now that we're at the ready to be able to deal with that once the legislature approves or changes and modifies that piece. So Alan, I'll move from 21 because I know I keep saying that and we're still waiting for, the legislature there, but it doesn't stop us from the reopening piece with elementary schools and the others. And I'll get to that in a moment. Vaccinations, just want to say those are continuing. That's an important part of our civic duty, of course, but also of safety. Just so thankful for that partnership with our friends out there at St. Mary's Medical Center. They're able to do up to 1,200 per day over at Our Lady of the Desert Church, which is just a stone's throw from St. Mary's Medical Center. You can see our allocations that we've received, 52, 55, 100, 185. That 52 is underlined. Just as a reminder, all of you, the guidelines were different when we got the 52 than they were for 55, 100, and 185. I tell you, it seems like if someone came from another planet and dropped on here, just said, why does this guy keep saying the guidelines were different? Can't they just get guidelines to say the same? Well, we haven't been able to, right? They have been different. Back with the 52, that was a 65 and older, and we were able to push that option out, that opportunity, it's voluntary, out to all of our 65 plus employees. We might remember there was a wonderful comment at the last board meeting. Someone's so very thankful for that opportunity, right? That 52 were the allocations. And then we're able at that point in time to allow the spouses to be part of that piece, as well as our community members, right? So just know that those are all the doses there. And if you're just wondering, as of after today, right, we were out there today. So we had, just outstanding work by all of our volunteers. It was just, I'll tell you, honestly, just a real pleasure to be there for many, many reasons. I'll talk about that in my administrative comments, but I would just say that right now we're probably pushing about 370 first doses administered over those 4 allocations. They're really excited. We had 183 of the 85 be able to show up. It was just outstanding. So, and just know right now, all educators are eligible. Technically for quite a while, as of today, I think this afternoon, all educators are eligible in San Bernardino County. Didn't mean that they all weren't. We've had educators who are engaged in in-person learning, first of all, and then it was expanded to, talk about those with other individuals, but technically it ends up resonating that way throughout San Bernardino County if you hear about that. So there's the vaccines, Alan. Thanks for kind of letting me speak to all the safety issues here. Let's talk about this reopening strategy. So here would be the strategy we would like to recommend all of you and push forward here. So the spirit that together is truly better, that we put forth a reopening date of March 11th. That's a Thursday. And that would be for all of our elementary schools, right? We have 6 elementary schools, just to make sure we remind everyone. That would include the Heritage School and up through 5th grade there at that school site. Plus, of course, our other 5 elementary schools that only go up through 5th grade. Now, that reopening date, again, is Thursday, March 11th. I will tell you, I'm just so very proud of our site leaders and the great work that they do all the time in representing their learning communities, right? And so just as recent as, the last 2 days, we've been working hard with them. They've been nothing but very supportive of what I've just put forth there. That March 11th date, again, why a Thursday, Ryan, allows for a transitional time, right? And in a very short period of time between now and then, right, we're right here on the 23rd, allows for ourselves to get ready on that Thursday, March 11th, allows for a Thursday, Friday transitional time, go into a weekend and have another full week right afterward, just really hitting the ground running in the best of ways, supporting kids and really maximizing the learning as rapidly as possible. Again, thank all the site leaders who really helped us develop that date and are behind that piece. And then also a strategy would be distributing a joint communique. I want to thank Dennis Zimmerman. I want to thank CSEA. I want to thank STA. There's just a wonderful support for us to come out as soon as I would argue tomorrow and really get that communication out to say, again, that first or that top header line, together is better. We're all together here, and getting our school system, specifically in the elementary level, reopened as rapidly as possible around that March 11th date. And then as rapidly as possible, too, just finalize our consult with the families. And people might say, well, Ryan, why weren't you doing this quite a while ago? Here's why. We wanted to have, again, the most recent guidelines. This is going to be a short turnaround and timeline for ourselves. Don't have a date established right now. We'll establish that and put that out there. We've had great success, in my opinion, getting good numbers of families in this environment, right? When we can't get face-to-face, come to us virtually and be able to see what the sites will look like through presentations, have pictures and show them what the safety measures will look like. What our sites, our site leaders and our staff members have been doing all the way back to, I would argue, October and even September, getting ready for this date, show everything that's happening. So at that town hall event, not only are questions being asked, but we'll have that presentation so that the families truly have the opportunity to connect with us and understand what that will look like in March 11th. All the while knowing, though, too, they'll have the option, right? They will certainly have the option to come back or remain in that remote school, the two remote school designs that would be over at Snowline Academy, as well as with the community schools. And then the community groups too. I'm just very privileged to maintain, connections with our communities. I've talked about in general terms about what the possibilities are, and I'll continue to do the work with the community groups so that we are doing what it says to get ready, and that is consult with the most important groups, our stakeholders, and then finally submit that COVID-19 safety plan that goes up to California Department of Public Health for approval. And so with that recommendation and strategy there, Alan, it gets us to, I think, number 24 on the way to 25 here. And then so those recommended next steps, just to summarize, would be that we implement that school reopening strategy for elementary schools that I just described. We continue to support the vaccine distribution in the ways that I just hopefully mentioned. I know I look across here and a good number of us have been out there and seen the great work and been involved with it. I think it's just such a great civic opportunity for us to serve. And it's just serving our community oh so very well, in my opinion. Increase the cohort opportunities as is appropriate, particularly at that middle school and high school level. And then when we think about that Safe Schools for All grant, we're at the ready for that. Again, I think all the people heading that piece up, Dennis Zimmerman, Robert Chacon, and James Fields, we're at the ready, right? We're at the ready. Why is it not in? Because again, that reminder, we just want to make sure we had all the data relative to the guidelines. And now that we've got it, we'll get that piece in. And then also for middle school, high school, I'll just leave with this. In that same spirit, we want to get to reopening opportunities as rapidly as possible, as quickly as possible, while being as safe as possible, all the while within the guidelines. So remember, that number needs to get to 7. Having been with Corbin Porter, he feels like the trend is headed the right way. We'll see where that goes. But you see the two verbs there, monitor and prepare. We want to make sure that we're doing that. They're always on that focus, and we'll make sure that we are ready so that when that number turns right at the middle school and high school level, and that would mean we get below 7 in the case rate, we're stay below 8% in those 2 positivity rates, then that triggers red, have to be there for 2 weeks, right? These are the rules this is one rule that stuck around for a while. Stick there for 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks' time, still remain in red. Then the next Wednesday, that's new now, right? The next Wednesday from that point, reopening can occur from that point in time. So, that gets me to slide 25. That's a lot of information. I hope, hopefully, some, if not all of it, was helpful. President Hernandez, back to you. I will certainly answer any and all questions, certainly around that strategy, though, too, to move forward. Elementary schools.
Thank you for that. Wow. I almost feel that's a rather aggressive timeline. You're talking about 15 and a half days from right now. I guess as long as we have joint support, STA, CSEA, and the staffing available. My one question that came to mind is the return to school format. Is it still that A-B model, part-time during the week, or are we opening the gates and saying, everybody come? What's the plan there?
Yeah, great question there, President Hernandez. Well, what I can tell you is, and this gets back to, and I thank you for the question because it brings you back that notion of hybrid, right? We use that term time and again, right? The elementary school waiver, hybrid design. So moving away from that language, because the guidelines have been modified a little bit. What I can share with you is, no, it's not everybody, all 100% of the kids, because the Consolidated Schools guidelines state that physical distancing has to occur within the classrooms, very similarly to hybrid design. So I think that's the most direct answer in terms of, will it be everybody? No. In terms of that AB, off, AB, or AA off, BB, that to us as senior count, I know I can speak for my colleagues, and we were talking to our wonderful site leaders. We're leaving that to them to really be able to determine how they can best do that, because with time has been more ideas. And so while we did have discussions about that today, and we've had ongoing discussions about what that design will look like, they're going to work together and use us as support to be able to provide for their schools, but particularly their students, what's best for them to maximize the learning opportunities that really will come with in-person learning. So I thank you for asking that question. That was an important piece, I think, that I was able to mention that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Quite, and I imagine more of that would be disseminated at town hall time when that comes around.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I want to, if you don't mind, President Hernandez, you mentioned about, the backing. I certainly talked about the site leaders, and we're all in their senior cabinet, yesterday and today talking to them. But, maybe Dennis, I thought that was like my typical food serving years, right? That I would go and ask, how's your food when you've got food in your mouth, right? So, what I can say is just Dennis Zimmerman did a great job, and I'll give him that opportunity to talk at the most appropriate time. But specifically, you bring up that great question: what about those bargaining groups, and what's their backing there? And so, Dennis, do you mind speaking a little bit more to that joint communique, because you did a great job working with the leaders there, the leadership there, and speak to really their support of that.
Yeah, thank you. And I just happen to be the person present. Both of the bargaining groups, CSEA and STA, were both very forthcoming in saying, yes, we see the numbers are coming down. We know kids need to have the opportunity to return to school. A lot of those kids are our own children, that need to be able to return to school. And, and they said, we're in support of moving forward safely, quickly, according to guidance, and willing to sign a joint communique with the superintendent to communicate to our staff and our families and our larger Snowline community that we're in this together.
Yeah, so just a huge testament to our staff members, right? That really recognizing that what we feel like at the administrative level too, and we probably learned from them too, is just how valuable that in-person learning is to the kids. So really appreciative of them and the work that Dennis did with them too.
Yeah, excellent work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Appreciate that. Member Bristol, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple things on the demonstration. One of the things is, just so everyone knows where my mindset is, I'm not hiding it. Getting back to school as quick and as aggressively as we can is where I'm at. And given that the numbers, if schools open and then the numbers increase and we're already open, we don't have to close. So to me, that's one of the parameters. Following all the safety regulations and trying to do it safely. Going to the school sports, football you mentioned, and some of the other outdoor sports, the testing costs, just an idea I had, we might be able to do some cost sharing with boosters or potentially parents, since it's kind of like an extracurricular activity. Just figure out some way for budgeting for that, the test cost, even though we don't know what it's going to look like yet and how often they have to be tested. And I don't know if any of that information is out yet or the cost, but we should look into, and maybe someone already has, but look into adjusting and being creative with the budgeting, maybe, putting money towards testing instead of where they would have normally put it somewhere else. And then the March 11th date is coming quick. Hope you guys are ready. I'm sure all the students are ready. They probably can't wait to get back. As far as the staff, I just wanted to say thank you for being courageous. I know there's a lot of fear There's a lot of anxiety. What we all want is right on the other side of that. And thanks for cooperating with us. And so far, everything is turning out great.
Yeah, Member Bristol, thanks for all your comments. I want to allow Dennis Zimmerman to answer, I think, on the testing side, right? Dennis, you want to speak to that? I can maybe add some pieces and some others thereafter. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, the rider with curative that you approved tonight should help us greatly with the cadence testing piece for competitive football in the different tiers. We will work with curative to provide us test kits that we have here locally, and we're allowed to use those with trained people and observing those tests being given. James Fields, our risk manager, and I talked about that a little bit today, and that will help out with that opportunity. And it will still be something, I am sure, where parents have to fill out the form, to give their insurance information, but they do not get billed themselves. Their insurance company gets billed on their behalf. And with all the billing that health insurance companies have been getting for testing or now for vaccinating, because in a lot of other ways, other services were down, use is down. So, rates look like they're not going to be killing us as people were hypothesizing at least for another year. But right now it looks pretty good. So we need to definitely, use that testing and vaccination that is being paid for. And my guess is insurance companies are turning around and then billing the state and the federal government and getting reimbursed in that way. So.
Yeah, I so appreciate that, Dennis. And then one other piece I'd add to Member Bristol's great comments is I know our athletic director, Joe Knowlton, had even been talking with the other athletic directors. How can costs be shared too? You talked about kind of offsetting those two. So if costs do fall our way, if there's, for instance, a game coming up or whatnot, how can it be done in ways, or maybe even at the game, right? If there's quick turnaround, all kinds of great ideas being thrown out. So thank you for thinking very creatively, in that regard. So thanks, President Hernandez.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Berenger, Member Flores, Clerk Loom? Seems like none. I do want to impress to our audience how much the targets have moved really since last year, but more decidedly since the turn of the year. I know everybody is getting antsy with wanting to get back. We have faced some very significant challenges. We've lost folks in our own community. I've lost two really good friends to this pandemic, and I don't take it lightly. So, I know our administrative staff and Dr. Holman, his whole crew, is taking this very seriously and has followed these targets as they have moved over and over again. Throwing darts at a board that just won't sit still, it's going to be hard to ever hit anything. We're coming down to the point that we can pull this trigger. We are looking to keep these numbers low, and that takes all of our effort to continue to push these numbers down. Continue wearing the mask. We're not done. Continue to be safe. Vaccinate if you feel it's for you. We really need our entire community to come together and to help us achieve this goal. We are in it together. So I really want to thank you, Dr. Holman, your whole crew. You've done a phenomenal job in chasing this down. So much of this is county and state saying when we can do it. So from the bottom of my heart and for everybody I represent, thank you very, very much for the work that you've done so far. Really do appreciate it. Look forward to continuing the trend. I look forward to getting rid of this pandemic that's just destroyed our lives. We have lost so much, all of our students. So many have lost these once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and hopefully we can gather back just a little bit as we scrape to the end of this year. So thanks again. Are there any other comments or questions to the reopening plan?
I think it's a wonderful plan, and I'm happy that we are acting aggressively. As Member Bristol indicated, we need to strike while the iron's hot and get going on this. And it's really nice to know that we've had a plan that's ready to take action with. You know, we're ready to hit the ground running. So March 11th, here we come.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Holman, are you looking for any consensus from us for taking this program forward, or is this your plan right now?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you bringing that up. You always have been just so good during this time. I want to bring attention to that, particularly for the new board members from March 13th, right? That was Friday the 13th in March, right? And all the way up until now, just been so great giving us latitude and so forth. The other side of that is we just, you know, we certainly know you're the board members and would certainly love consensus all the time, right? To support, you know, just to show the support, because you've just been nothing but great about giving us the latitude to do what's best. We feel like this is best, but back to you, President, Hernandez, we certainly love consensus. You know, I think that makes a real powerful statement, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you. My only concern always is those that choose to continue the remote learning, that we don't forget them. We can't allow any additional loss to those, a preferential education to those that choose in person versus those that choose to remain remote. It's quite important that we finish off strong for everyone, no matter what you choose. So that being my only caveat, you absolutely have my vote to continue moving forward. And I will look across the faces and the rest of the board members and look for your consensus as well.
Yes, I agree. You're indicating that there should be the option of returning to in-person remote, correct? Yes, I agree with that.
Very good. Clerk Lim,
I agree as well. And
thank you.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say also, yeah, I definitely agree with that. We want to make sure everyone has choices and to do it, to be able to choose what they think is best for their child.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, I do believe you have consensus from the board.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like I just have to say again, a tremendous amount of thanks to all of you for your direction. This is hard times too. You were just very complimentary to all of us. It really turned around to all five of you, right? Very, very hard time to be board members here during this time. So thanks so very much for the support, the confidence, and that option was always on our mind, will always be on that mind. And I think it's something we're very proud of, right? We've got one more option than most school districts have now in the remote, and we'll continue to maintain those options as you described. So thank you so very much. And there's going to be a lot of work ahead. It is aggressive, but I'm just so appreciative that it is better together. And so, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you really want to do it well, right, you got to do it together, and we're going to do it together. So thank you.
All together. Thank you. Member Bristol.
Yeah, just a question a little bit, maybe off subject, but when do we get back to regular meetings? Do you have the rubric or parameters for the board to go back?
It's just such an insightful question there, Member Bristol. I've got that in my comments, in fact, for administrative comments. So, and there is a rubric, if you will. I love that term that you used as well. I'll share with you that rubric, if you don't mind, in administrative comments, if it's appropriate.
Seems like it. Thank you. So that does conclude all the meaty portions of tonight's meeting. And so we'll move into board member comments. And we'll start with Clerk Loom.
Well, I don't know if you can see that. For someone who's gotten every vaccine on this planet from being in the military, I found this to be the most uneventful vaccine I've ever got. So anybody that's afraid, don't be. I have no injection pain, no side pain, no fever, no chills, no nothing. So go for it if you get a chance. It was a very positive experience. Everybody was friendly and organized, and I thanks for all those who put that on. And that's all my comments.
Thank you. Member Behringer.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realize my mic was open. Sorry about that. I just wanted to reach out and thank our site administrators for their SIPSAs. I realize that that's a lot of work and it requires a lot of collaboration. and they are very good plans. So I'm excited to support those. Also, so thrilled that our numbers are dropping overall as well as locally. That's so important. It's just fabulous news, and I just hope that trend continues. So we all, as you said, need to maintain our physical distancing and washing our hands and wearing our masks, keeping up that trend. But better yet, too, we have increased testing and we're doing vaccinations. So that's tremendous work with the coordinated efforts of our district administrators. Greatly appreciate that. And we most wholeheartedly need to thank our teachers for remaining flexible as we pivot into in-person instruction. I know that they're just as thrilled as we all are and as the students are. So it's just going to be fabulous getting everybody back together. So excited. I just had a really quick question about the CASP testing now that it's official that we will be doing that this year. Is there an idea of how we're going to go about doing that?
I don't know. I'll turn that over to you. I'll just say, though, very carefully, right? And very effectively. So he's our expert there, Alan.
I've heard a lot of different models being floated of, coming in over summertime doing this and, just a lot of different ideas. If you want some time to think about it, you can get back to me.
Oh, yeah, you're specifically talking about the learning loss?
The CASP testing.
Oh, the CASP testing. I'm sorry. Yes. So with the CASP testing, I just completed a survey this past week for some input on whether they wanted to be extended into summer or carry off onto the fall. I was adamant against that. I think that we need to persevere, push through, get it out of the way, and then get ready to move on for next year. So at this point, Dr. Buchanan's done an incredible job working, training both principals and teachers on that platform and going through the same things we have done traditionally in preparation for that CASP. Like I said, we were hoping that we might get off the hook with it this year. Not that we don't want to get some kind of baseline data, but really there's so many tangibles and intangibles that we're dealing with. I just don't know how valid the data will be, but we're going to go ahead and follow accordingly. We're going to do the very best we can, and I know the teachers will do their very best to motivate the kids to perform it at their optimum level in this environment. So did that answer your question there?
Yes, thank you very much. And that's all the comments I have.
Thank you, Member Behringer. Member Bristol.
Yeah, sorry for speaking out of turn. I'm a little mixed up. I'm a rookie here, so I'm trying to figure out what the proper procedure and the time is to jump in with some of my comments. And then that's it. It's a pretty good meeting. It's exciting times for the future.
Very good. Thank you. Never a bad time for comments. We appreciate it always. Member Flores.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Just really want to say thanks to the Vista Verde kids. It was really nice to see some kids' faces and smiling and that they're learning. I really enjoyed that part, that they got to share with us what they're learning. So really thank you to them. If any of them are still on, or if anybody who is going to see them at any point soon is still on this meeting, just thanks to those guys for their hard work. And then to Doc Holman and the gang, thanks so much for your guys' hard work chasing down the moving targets of what we're supposed to be doing here. I know that so many people want to be back in person in one way or another. So thanks for chasing that stuff down. Thank you to our site leaders who are going to be working so hard with the teachers and the rest of the staff to make these things happen. Thanks in advance to everybody who's going to work really hard in these next couple weeks. And I know it seems kind of like an aggressive timeline, but we're grateful. And I could just speak as a parent. I'm grateful. I'd rather see And again, knowing that we've been very cautious this whole time, we've been very deliberate in every step we've been taking. I don't think at any point have we been flippant or I don't know. I'm grateful. So thank you guys for all the things that you guys are doing right now, and look forward to an update coming up again soon in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to echo that. It was very cool to see Vista here tonight. My daughter was a part of the Vista system, K through 5. So seeing similarities and age groups and everything just coming through, just very exciting. So I really appreciate their presentation tonight. And also very appreciative once again to all the site leaders, and especially for Mr. Gardner hanging out with us all night long. Thank you so much, sir. It's great to see you here. So, I also had my sticker. Unfortunately, I changed. I don't have it on me today, as you did, curriculum, but I was able to enjoy the services and the volunteers over at St. Mary's, and I got my vaccination as well. In doing so, and in watching the process, I reflected how much we are living through history right now, and that this will be written of, much as, the Spanish flu, much as the war efforts in World War II, of how much we gave of ourselves to fight a cause, to fight an effort. The history books we've written of, the staying at home, doing these things, all while living through other historical moments. The Perseverance mission that just landed in Mars for the first time, such high detailed information coming back so quickly that, we witnessed it all, firsthand. And, for my generation, we read about the moon landing. This is our landing, and this is a pivotal moment in science. And, the tragedies happening across Texas, that, there's so much happening all at the same time that we're just living through it. So just watching the lines today just really made me reflect on that. And, I felt the loss, as I spoke of before, of 2 friends that have passed away from COVID. I didn't get to know them a long time. They were work cohorts, but, there was much to learn from these guys, and enjoyed my time with them. And for it to have been so close to where we are right now, and how many that could have impacted, just if we hung out there for just another couple of weeks each time, just did a little bit more, how many could we have saved? So I'm very reflective of that right now. And so, I appreciate all the efforts that we do to bring our full community forward and move past this. So just thank you for all of that. And I'm sure Dr. Holman will remind us, but I'll put it out there. Our next meeting is the additional study session. We'll be meeting at 1 p.m. to get that kicked off. And that will conclude my comments. And I'm sure Dr. Holman will speak to that more, his comments as well. So I will turn to administrative comments, and I'll put a little check mark by each name this time, so I don't skip over Mr. Dennis Zimmerman, but I will start with Mr. Alan Miller.
All right. Thank you, President Hernandez. I just wanted to start off my comments with a thank you to Vista Verde. They did a wonderful job tonight. And as much as students would rather be back in school, and we'd rather have them back in school, they look pretty comfortable on these virtual platforms now. They're really used to it, so they're experts. But I was very impressed with their poise and confidence during the presentations. They did an excellent job. Also wanted to give a big shout out again to our principals for being here for our Q&A session to field any questions regarding their SIPSs. They did simply outstanding work on those, and I know that they will continue to implement even better than they write, because they're great at bringing those plans to life on their respective school sites. So thank you, Mr. Garner, and all the other principals that may be out there listening still. Going over to the vaccine, we had the vaccine today, and I was fortunate enough to be able to RSVP to Ryan's invitation to open up that vaccine pool so that we would maximize all of those spots and be able to make sure we didn't give any of them back. So I was blessed to be able to go there and get my first vaccine today. A little bit of a sore arm, but I'm a kind of an old pro at this kind of stuff too. Like Member Colomb, when we were back in basic training back in the day, we probably got about 15 to 20 inoculations, and I couldn't tell you what they were putting in my arm. So today was a piece of cake. So thank you for all the volunteers out there. St. Mary's, all of the school volunteers, and thank you to the church, Lady of the Desert Church, for hosting it, because, and it's just my opinion, but there's no better combination than God and the miracle of medicine. So I think that's a good thing. And then going on to just some events, a couple events that I had the opportunity to participate in. Serrano High School Winter Formal on Friday. The Diamondback staff leadership did a wonderful job making a very enjoyable event for our kids, really getting creative since we can't do the traditional type of winter formal this year. Making something real special. They did a drive-through event with great decorations, photo ops, music, and most importantly, just a lot of friendly faces to greet the students and cheer them on during that drive-through. And then moving on to events that I had the opportunity to participate in. It was just yesterday I got a chance to sit in Serrano High School Community Building Circle. Carrie Walzinski was a big part of that, and training kids up to facilitate these circles through their peer leaders. And the class host was Mr. Josh Sullivan, so he was in there. I'll give kudos to Mia Davis and Mia Bodwin, both students over at Serrano, and they were the facilitators of the circle. They did an exceptional job, but all of the students did a wonderful job in the way that they participated. They respected the process of the circle, and they also did a wonderful job respecting and listening authentically to one another. So they let me participate. I had fun. I enjoyed it. And I'm happy to say that Mrs. Carrie Walzinski will be here next month with some students from the peer leader group to do our student presentation. So you all have that to look forward to. And then last but not least, not to end it on a somber note, but in case any of the board members or any members of our community are wondering why our flags are at half staff, we're flying the flags at half staff starting yesterday through Friday to honor the 500,000 people that have succumbed to COVID-19. So it's a simple gesture, but an important one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller and Mr. Dennis Zimmerman.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I just want to say, I guess, I don't know if Kenny Funk's out there listening tonight, but just a quote came to my brain a few minutes ago, and it's one of the quotes my wife hits me with on a regular basis, since I'm kind of a type A, go get her done type of person. And she'll say to me, "Blessed are the flexible, otherwise they will break." And I mean, COVID has required a tremendous amount of flexibility. It's going to continue forward, that we're going to need to be flexible. But I think we're moving in the right direction. I think some folks are going to be a little surprised probably by, the aggressiveness of the date and saying, what if, what can we? But together we can, together we can. The vaccination opportunities that we are getting through San Bernardino County, through St. Mary's, in conjunction with the superintendents and the high desert school districts coming together and then rounding up volunteers, is really incredible. I mean, this is week 4, I think, of this happening, and it is going a long ways towards helping us be safe. I know there's going to be questions because I know other districts are getting the same questions or even have dates sooner than ours. Hey, is that enough time to get second doses in? And, you know, and we're going to work through all of these pieces as we move forward. And, you know, the vaccinations are going to help. But what's really going to help is all of us coming together, like we've heard so many people say tonight, to practice safe hygiene, not only during the school day, whatever the school day ends up looking like, but during life period, you know, Monday through or Sunday through Saturday, 24 hours, we need to be doing that. You know, in my office, we have actually gotten fairly successful at times predicting contact tracing. You know, oh, that person's positive. Well, guess what? I bet this person are going to be positive, you know, because they're friends that hang together, do things together. And it's great. I get it. But, you know, the reason we're getting to come together is because of the great work people have done to drive these numbers down. And we can't forget that. But we got to keep driving these numbers down. Again, 0 is the goal. We'll never get to 0 flus. We'll never get to 0 chicken pox. We'll never get to 0, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's all, you know, health and safety is definitely the goal. And the consolidated guidelines that we're going to be following, they're strict, but they're safe. And they're well worth the work to provide in-person learning opportunities for students and to keep students and staff, you know, safe. So we're going to get there. It's going to be good. We did send out a short follow-up COVID vaccination survey today. And instead of just sending it to district email groups, which goes to their Snowline email addresses only, we used the email addresses that a number of people had provided us for the COVID vaccination priority list. And so putting those email addresses into the Google form for the survey, it eventually timed me out and told me I'd sent out too many email addresses for the Google survey today. So I'm gonna have to finish up with a few more groups tomorrow. I had to wait 24 hours. So there might be some people that haven't received their invitation to this short little survey, but it'll be coming. And really the gist of the survey is to allow staff to make comments on the vaccination process, you know, that they feel administration should see, and to let us know if they are still, you know, wanting to get invitations to vaccinations. Because again, when we as a district aren't able to fill spots, we're probably going to lose the opportunity for these vaccination clinics at St. Mary's. You know, we just, Robert Chacon just opened up 24 slots, I think mid-afternoon or late afternoon today, that just came our way, you know, very quickly. And sitting here right now, I just opened it up and we've only filled 10 of those 24 spots. And so, you know, we'll see. We may be just about saturated on the people that are ready and willing to be vaccinated, but we're going to keep doing everything we can to be safe, and vaccination is just one of those layers. So thank you, everybody, you know, for your hard work, and guess what? The work's going to get harder moving forward, but for all the right reasons. Hard work is healthy. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Mr. Robert Chacon.
Yeah, thanks, President Hernandez. Keep it short and sweet tonight. Just a huge thank you. I'm pretty excited to get home and tell my 5th grader and 3rd grader that, hey, in a few weeks they're going back to school. So they're going to be pretty stoked and jazzed about that, I am sure. And I am equally as jazzed to tell them. So thank you. We appreciate you guys' support. Like everyone mentioned tonight, definitely a lot of work ahead of us, but willing and able. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Nancy Stapp.
So sorry, I had a little computer glitch there. I would just like to say that I loved seeing Vista Verde, their scholars and their presentation, their staff, everybody was fabulous. I also want to say that I was given the opportunity, along with the other senior cabinet members, to read to the Baldy Mesa Roadrunners, which was very exciting because my grandson called me and said, "Grammy, I saw you reading a book to me today." So that just made my Grammy heart happy. And I also want to let the board know that a couple of years ago, maybe not quite 2 years ago, CSBA came up with a new agenda program to which we will be switching over to effective the first meeting in April. So it'll be the April 13th meeting. We have a study session on March 9th, which will be the last time that we use the Agenda Online program, the platform we are currently using. And so you will have about 4 weeks or so between meetings then from the March 9th to the April 13th, since we only have one meeting currently in March, to get used to that new program and to watch a little video that I'll send you on how it works. And it should be fairly simple. It's actually got some much greater features than this program we're using does. And so I will be getting that information to you. Also, one last thing is just to say that as everybody was sitting here talking, I'm looking at this note that I stuck on my computer on March, I want to say about the 16th or 17th of last year, as I attended one of my many to become many meetings online that says, "Sustain the momentum of change." And I have to tell you that this group that I work with are so intentional and so willing to do whatever it takes. And this has been quite the journey. And I'm so appreciative of everybody, of the support from the board, the support from our community, our staff members. I am so excited for students because I have seen the effects that this has had that hit close to home with me with some grandkids. And it's been a struggle for some of them, especially my high schoolers. And so I look forward to us getting to that point as well. And also I appreciate all of the principals who presented their SIPSIS tonight, and all of the work that they do and all that they've done through all of this as well. It has been just a roller coaster ride. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tapp. Do appreciate that. And finally, Dr. Holman.
Thanks, President Hernandez. Gosh, just such wonderful comments. I concur with all of them. I do have some specific ones. I want to start with that study session that you mentioned, President Hernandez, and you said it very well. So March 9th is almost upon us, right? From February 9th is our last study session to March 9th. That'll begin at 1 o'clock, just as was said, and that will extend until 5 o'clock. And just to remind ourselves of the great work that you did do, you got all the way through providing examples of belief statements and the core values, of course. And so what we've done is we've got a draft already circulating amongst our site leaders so that they can put that lens, they can use the lens, if you will, of our site and department leaders saying, how does this represent all of the other staff members within our school district? And so they're giving us feedback. We'll bring that feedback back to you and be able to move forward from that point onward. And so looking forward to that great work. Mitch Hovey, right? Dr. Mitch Hovey and of course, Dick Bray will be providing the great facilitation. Like, I feel like I can speak for all of us. We were real appreciative of their excellent work last time. So again, 1 o'clock on March 9th. I know that makes for a long day because that'll be from 1 to 5, and then from 5 to 6 o'clock is closed session, and then from 6 o'clock on is open session. But golly, I will tell you what is, I think starting to come from it is really powerful. And so I just really respect all of you for for doing the work that you have to get us to this point. Great stuff. So looking forward to that. And then with that being said, I want to then kind of segue right into Member Bristol. What a great comment you made, Member Bristol, about, hey, what about coming back to in-person board meetings? And so the rubric, and I love that term that you use as well, the rubric that we have used is just what we're rolling out right now, is once we start coming back with in-person learning. And that was with the cohorts, right? The cohorts. And so my commitment to all of you is to say, I will be in there, and anyone who would like to join us, please feel free, because we've really tried to follow that model of, we understand that there might be things that get in the way that won't allow you to. So on that March 9th date, know that Mitch Hovey and Dick Ray won't be able to be with us. Please know that piece and the study session. But if you want to join us here, and we've got the barriers set up and we're ready and prepared to do what, as leaders, what we're asking of our other staff members if we so choose. And so it's an option. And so that's what we did last time. And so we'll leave that available to all of you. Just if you would notify Nancy staff if you are going to attend, I think that's probably the best way. And then we'll assume if we don't hear from you, then we know that you won't. And if you could do it by Nancy, if you could open up your microphone, what would be an appropriate time so that we make sure we can ready the place, if you will, up in Allen's neck of the woods? Sorry, I really hurt you with that microphone.
No, it's the way I have my computer set up. I'm sorry. Yes, if you could let me know by, let's say let's go Friday, March 5th, because I will have food available as well. And they will be, individual, just pick up a box or whatever, and that's your food. So anyway, if I could know by March 5th, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, thanks. And for maybe the new board members who are wondering, we've got barriers that are established there, right? We'll be doing the physical distancing, and we'll follow all the protocols, mask wearing, and all those things. So thanks for saying that, Nancy. Again, a great question there, Member Bristol. So you have that option, and we're monitoring that because we do have options right now available to our public. And so that's our rubric. And I just thought you nailed that when you said rubric there, Member Bristol. And then, moving forward, I just want to share a couple other pieces here. And I'll just begin with Vista Verde Elementary School Vipers. Just so very proud of all of them, from, Brandy White, Robin Laughlin, of course, Maria Hughes and Debbie Barber, that entire staff, but most importantly, the students. They were just outstanding, and just a great example of how many powerful outcomes are occurring at that school and throughout our district. Just so representative. So, Alan, thanks for making certain that we organize those student presentations and just remind ourselves why we do what we do. I think that was just certainly a wonderful example of that. Looking forward to more of those as we progress with our board meetings. And then just a couple other pieces. I want to speak to the notion of what I think you brought it up first, President Hernandez, and then it went to Member Behringer, then it went to Dennis Zimmer knows so very well, and that's making certain, those numbers look great right now, but they're great for a reason. And that is many reasons, one of which, though, of course, is that we're engaging in, right, the protocols that we need to be engaged in. And so I know people are tired of hearing that from me. Probably sounds like white noise coming from me. I put it in those letters all often. But boy, here's an opportunity for us to really squash those numbers, keep them down, not just so that we can open. It's wonderful that we can open. It's the right thing. But more importantly, so that we can keep our community safe. And let's be honest, the research is really, to me, really clear. There's been some great studies, real viable studies that have been peer reviewed, showing the safest place for kids is at schools, right? But Dennis was talking about outside too. I mean, we keep doing the good work with those measures, and our entire learning community benefits. So thanks for giving that reminder. And then I think I'll just end on vaccines. Dennis, thanks for saying, I guess we've got 14 left. So, let's fill those 14, any employees who are so willing. We know it's voluntary, but please fill those up. I give a huge thanks to, our senior cabinet members I get to work with who've just been doing such hard work to make that happen. And then I'll end with the vaccination process today. And I'll tie it to reopening, because I was just, upon reflection, amazed at how much I enjoyed seeing our colleagues that I just have not seen. I mean, we saw 185 of them come through, right? More because of the volunteers there too, which I'll get to in a moment. And it was just that reminder upon reflection of them tying that to reopening for our students. There's real magic that happens when adults can interact. And I think that's what we're going to see, right? When our kids get to interact with these wonderful adults. So it was just so very, very powerful. And when we talk about that effort out there, I just have to say publicly, just the greatest of thanks to St. Mary's Medical Center and all those wonderful employees that we get to partner with. A gigantic thanks to Dave Olney, the superintendent out at Hesperia Unified School District, and all of his wonderful employees who've been volunteering on a regular basis to make this happen. It wouldn't happen without the volunteers. We were told that by the CEO, and so they've been carrying a huge load. And so too is Trenae Nelson, the superintendent out at Apple Valley, and her wonderful staff who've been carrying that volunteer role. And that's my segue into it. Just a gigantic thanks to the Snowline volunteers. Stepped up and said, Ryan, we'll do this. John Garner, I look at him right now. He was one out there, and we were able to connect and talk about that process. Of course, socially distanced with our masks on, of course. But I thought said it very well. He just felt like it was really rewarding and really valued the time. And he was doing super work, as were our others. And that just says a lot about, I would ultimately say, that something we mentioned, I think, on, not Friday the 13th of March back in the day, but probably Saturday the 14th, and kept saying it. It's an effort to be essentially human. I think the best of humanity has many, many parts and qualities, one of which is serving others, right? Doing for others. And that's what this vaccination effort is. That's what we're trying to do in terms of reopening too. And so I'm just thrilled. Thanks for all your great efforts, board members, and certainly senior cabinet, principals and department leaders and staff throughout the entire Snowline district. This is going to be great, getting our kids back in the ways that I know they're going to be thrilled to see, still while maintaining options to stay home for those families who want that. So thanks, President Hernandez.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for your comments tonight. And as always, I'm very appreciative of everyone in virtual attendance with us tonight. Your participation is greatly appreciated and so very important as we continue moving forward together. There being no further business to come before the board, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move approval.
Thank you, Member Behringer. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Member Bristol. A roll call vote. Clerk Colomb.
Aye.
Member Behringer.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.